Welcome to We Got Goals, a podcast by asweatlife.com. I'm Gina Anderson Cohen, founder and CEO of A Sweat Life. And with me is Chris Fanucci. He is many things. Today we'll be talking a lot about the founding of Bitewell. But Chris, tell us about yourself and why the heck you're here today.
Hi, Gina.
Hi.
I am a food and beverage entrepreneur. Who started two beverage companies, one in the plant protein space, another one in the plant-based energy space. And I feel like I've just been in the right place with the right people at the right time a couple times. And sometimes that's all you need.
A couple of times. So you're talking specifically about Koya and Limitless.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to name in your back pocket?
Yeah, there's another one that I've been working on the last several months. It's a platform that connects dietitians to food that's actually deliverable to you. So in the world of healthy recommendations right now, there's a big lack of ability to take action on those recommendations outside of having to go to the store, create a recipe, cook it, and do all the things. And I think there's a really big opportunity to help make healthier decisions easier. So that's what we're working on at Bitewell.
Very exciting. Well, let's jump in. This podcast is all about goals, as you know. We've developed a friendship over the past year. Is that accurate? Year-ish.
Yeah.
Which is how I like to do business, really, is start with friendship and then go from there. So I've learned a lot about you over that time. However, we've never talked specifically about your goals. So I'm very excited for this conversation. Yeah. Chris, tell me about a goal that you've set and accomplished in the past and why it was important to you.
Yeah. It's a funny question because you can take it a lot of different ways. But I always come back to this one goal, this lofty, I thought, goal when I was a kid. Kid meaning in college, where our school at DePaul, I went to DePaul University, in case you forgot. Our school did an innovation award similar to the Chicago Innovation Award. And throughout growing up, I'd always built mini companies with my friends. When I was in grade school, I bought all of the colored Livestrong bracelets, if you remember. The yellow ones were the easy ones to get, but it was really hard to get the red ones, the blue ones, the green ones. I think they had orange ones too. But anyways, bought a bunch of them on eBay and hustled them to my classmates in I think 5th grade. So like many entrepreneurs, I started early. And I didn't really take it seriously until I got to college. And even then, I didn't take it very seriously, but found out about this opportunity to win a scholarship or a grant, whatever they would call it back then. And it was to create your own business model, submit a business model to DePaul and they'll review you like they would do for the Chicago Innovation Awards. And the top 5 winners, I think, got a scholarship. Now, I am not going to sit here and say I won because I didn't. But I came in 2nd place. And it was the first time in my life that I actually had validation that my ideas were good, or at least not bad. I think that's a better way to say it. So, it was my first time that I took any effort really outside of academics to work on something that I thought was super cool. And having the validation after it and winning that award certainly helped push me in the direction that took me here.
I have a lot of questions, many follow-ups. Are you ready?
Bring them on.
Yeah. First follow-up. So you're already enrolled in DePaul at this point, when you entered this? Okay, great. Second follow-up. Did 2nd place get anything?
Yeah, I did. I think it was a $5,000. No, it might have been a $5,000 scholarship.
That's exciting.
Or actually, it wasn't a scholarship. It was a grant because I could use it for whatever I wanted. I can't recall if half of it was for go into the world and figure it out, and half of it was for your tuition, or if it was just all figure it out money. But I do know that I took some of that money and hired an entrepreneur coach.
Cool.
I ended up not actually doing the business for many reasons. The biggest one being I was 20 years old and had no idea what I was doing. And the idea, by the way, was essentially what Carvana is today.
Stop.
The easiest way to explain it. Yeah, I wanted to create a vending machine for new cars. for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
But yeah, hired that entrepreneurship coach and learned a ton, like a super ton. Really enjoyed meeting with her. We met every week, and I think that was the most I'd learned throughout my college experience, was actually just hiring that gal and learning the way she looked at things.
What made you understand that the best way to use that money for yourself at that moment was a coach?
I had no idea what I was doing. So you have to go figure it out. And I want to learn from experts to figure it out. So I didn't know that yet. I guess in college, it was more, let's talk to people who aren't going to charge me 20 grand a week to learn. Let's find the coaches that are really passionate about helping the younger guys, or just getting the small businesses off the ground. And I think you find that community's got a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of people trying to help each other out. So once you're in it, you start meeting other people who are in it, and that just kind of grows.
Yeah. I think you also find that there's almost like this karma economy too, which I think is what you're describing. Like those who have been helped wish to help others.
Totally.
Which is
yeah.
lovely to see.
Isn't it? It's so great to have a community of people that you can call on, talk about why accounting sucks, and you can go help find a shared accountant.
Oh, do you have somebody?
I actually do.
Okay, that's
offline.
good.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, great. So wait, what did you call? Did you have a name for this idea? Did you? What became of it besides you deciding not to do it?
Well, when I submitted it, I called it car roulette. And when you're allowed to laugh.
Like chat roulette?
Actually, kinda. That's kind of, anyways. The business coach quickly told me that people might have a negative connotation to that terminology. So I actually killed the idea completely before coming up with a real name.
Wow. Okay, so how did you go from car roulette to food and beverage? What took you from coaching in college to that?
Yeah, that's an interesting journey. I got my first job out of college selling electronic cigarettes.
What?
So, as you can see, I can't take it very seriously.
Yeah.
But I learned a ton. I actually had an opportunity to create my own work schedule. So I still have never lived in or worked in a real office. And during that time, I did really well at the job. It happened to be during a time when electronic cigarettes were booming. Again, can't take it seriously. But I ended up just getting really strong sales numbers. So my boss kind of didn't really care what I was doing in my spare time. I ended up networking with a bunch of food and beverage entrepreneurs and ultimately helping a few of them out. I remember the first guy that me and a guy by the name of Rob helped out was creating a liquor infused spice company. So that was my first entrance into food and beverage. And then shortly thereafter, we started helping out a guy who had a water company that was like your Tom's model: buy a bottle, give a day's worth of water to somebody in need. And I think both of those businesses are actually still alive today.
Cool. And for our listeners at home, A Sweat Life neither endorses nor supports electronic cigarettes. In fact, please don't use those.
Please don't.
You are, that's fine. No judgment, but don't start.
I'll back that.
Yeah. How interesting it is that you learned the skill of like sales and hustle and side hustles in that time too.
Yeah. ADD is a heavy contributor to that, I think, just wanting to continue to keep doing things constantly. But I think I was just hungriest to learn. I knew I wasn't in a space that I really wanted to be in. Like, that wasn't my passion. It was just my convenient place right after college, and the easiest job, frankly, that I could get. And I wanted to steer my life in the direction that I wanted it to go, So I tried to immerse myself into things that were really interesting to me. And I didn't know it at the time, but health and wellness was certainly at the top of my list, subconsciously.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting because you said that the contest in college, or the what should we call it? The grant award?
Yeah, innovation award. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's like a buzzword that people like
Yeah.
these days.
Innovation award was the first time that your ideas had been validated. So what was going on before that your ideas were not being validated? What the heck?
I wouldn't say that they weren't being validated. I just wasn't working on ideas that I took seriously. For example, I started a college publication called Dude That's So College when I was a sophomore with a bunch of awesome friends that lived in Wrigleyville together. The long and short is I just had a bunch of people sending content in from different colleges, my friends in college, and I would edit it, turn it around, and post it online. And it actually got a lot of viewers. But I never took it seriously. I never thought to myself, this is going to be my future. I just knew like, this is cool. Like, what a cool, fun, random thing for me to occupy my time for the next year-ish. Ultimately, almost got sued because somebody's parent found their kid in a video, reached out and gave us a cease and desist. And I didn't even look into getting a lawyer. I was just like, yeah, this was fun. Let's call it a day.
Goodbye.
But yeah, that was, so I'd always done like random things like that, but never taken it seriously enough until I actually tried on that contest.
So interesting. It was like Spoon University for bros.
Yeah, actually there was another one called Bro Bible that we were like, this is our North Star.
I love Bro Bible. Actually, I worked on when I did a job that now I'm like, what? I worked on the social media for dude focused automobile called the Nissan Juke.
Cool.
And its target was literally, I shouldn't say it, it's whatever, bros. And so I did a lot of like reading, and Bro Bible was one of my bro resources.
They've got all the bro.
Yeah.
All the bro you need.
Bro. Well, so let's talk about your future goal, because I have a feeling that a lot of your future and a lot of what we've talked about kind of is pre-limitless, pre-Koya. So let's talk about what you're doing now and your next big goal. So Chris, talk to me about a big goal you're working on and why it's important to you.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the story.
Give it.
End with an answer. The story is, when I was growing up, and even still, my step grandfather, his name's Stan, he's an author, he lives here in Chicago. Also one of the only people in Illinois that always wears a cowboy hat. Fun fact about Stan. Every time we'd go out to eat when I was a kid, and even still, he'd carry around this bun. Okay. And every single restaurant that we went to, he'd tell to the waiter, I want you to take my bun and nuke it for 30 seconds, bring it back with an American burger. And it was the most awkward, uncomfortable experience every single time. Even now, I like put my head down, like still, like they have gluten-free buns, Stan. But all that to say, there's this huge gap in the market between understanding what's good for you and actually being able to make an easy choice to have that good stuff, you know? And I think that there's a really big opportunity to help make healthy understanding of what is healthy easier, and not only that, attach it to things that are actionable. So my goal is to take all of the grandfathers who have gluten-free buns and help them understand where they can go around them that has a gluten-free bun ready for them, right? Or help the diabetic understand how do they need to make their lifestyle changes without having to research for 2 years and call 10 dietitians to consults. You know, I want all of those decisions that really are at a core source of anxiety for us to go away. I want that weight to be lifted off. So my goal ultimately is to help make those healthier decisions easier by tying together restaurant recommendations with food delivery.
And a lot of what you're working on is connecting the consumer. If I'm to distill what I know, connecting the consumer to trained, knowledgeable resources like an RD, a registered dietitian, who can then recommend consumer packaged goods, foods that are already made so that they don't have to create everything from scratch, research all of the ingredients, etc., to make life a little more livable. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly what we're doing today. But the other piece of it that's really important to me is all the brands that we're working with are small. And they all come from where I came from, you know, from a literally we have $10,000 in the bank. What do we do? To, you know, we have a couple $100,000 in the bank, but we still need to get bigger because all the other big guys are taking all the market. So what we want to do is highlight those brands in health and wellness, allow our dietitians to curate those brands, but ultimately be a source where we can help those brands stand on their 2 feet during a time when awareness for small companies and food is at an all-time low. So that's what I'm really excited about. I've walked that entrepreneur walk of food and beverage, and I know how hard it can be to get your name out there. And especially now with people visiting grocery stores less frequently, it's much more difficult to win a new consumer's attention.
So your big goal is to
own every food decision that somebody makes in a day.
That's a lofty goal.
That is a lofty goal. But it's the true north, right? Yeah. Like everything's got to start or stem from somewhere.
Yeah, it is your current bro Bible. You know what I love about this is it actually is reminiscent. You want to own every food decision that a consumer makes in a day. Like, I love that. It's reminiscent of the big goal that Matt Matros set on the podcast, who I know you know, when he was talking about Limitless in like the early Limitless. Yeah. And his big goal was to have, I mean, like I still talk about this, to have 100% market share of the world's coffee consumption.
Yep.
Which it lofty.
That was always the true goal for Matt. Absolutely. Yeah. And like, if anybody knows how to work towards an ever lofty goal, it's him, in a way that's tactical and well thought out. And I think along that same school of thought, like, you have to shoot big if you want to make big impacts. And it's really easy to come up with a shop where you sell your friends like sweaters that you knit, right? And you help them stay warm. And you could do that and create an awesome life for yourself and for those around you. But I want to make an impact in people's life on a grand scale, because this isn't a small problem that we're going after, right? This food is the source of your longevity in life. Food is life, right? And there's still so much inefficiencies around what is good for you, how it gets to you, and where you can trust to make those decisions. And it's so fragmented and sporadic all over the internet. You know, it's really about how can you create something that people can trust to make the most intimate decisions for them in a day. And that's what we have to build towards. So lofty goals are, in my experience now and opinion, really important.
I agree. So what I also love about the product, and what's challenging about replicating the product, right? Like, it's your moat, is that you're essentially building like 2 marketplaces, a marketplace of products and a marketplace of experts. Is that, am I interpreting that right?
Yes. And it's really going to be interesting on how we choose to use our experts over time. Right now, they're helping curate products for consumers because they have a finger on the pulse of what's new, better, and trending in ingredients and in wellness. On the other end, we've got consumers who would love to understand at an instant when they're at the grocery aisle, should I buy chickpea pasta or cauliflower pasta, and why? And to be able to just shoot a message to a dietitian and have an instantaneous response would be really powerful. So there's a lot of things we could do with those folks. It's really just going to be a matter of figuring out how people want to interact with them. So I'm excited about both sides of that marketplace. Yeah,
I am too. And I'm excited for, well, one, because I'm someone who just recently very much so needed a registered dietitian, as you know, Chris, as a friend. I recently had 2 very unexpected GI surgeries, and I had to figure out what the hell to eat that time after the surgery, because I was given like I'm going to put a little like asterisk in the air here for my listeners at home. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and I truly believe it's not their fault. No one had time to refer me to an RD. So I had to go out there and find my own. But it's overwhelming, and I'm very grateful that I have the resources, but there are so many people who just don't.
And there's so many things in life. Like, what I think is really interesting is you try and solve problems as an entrepreneur. Like, there's big problems, there's little problems. Like Koya, there was a big problem that vegan protein drinks didn't exist, so we fixed it. At Limitless, there was a problem that there wasn't a cool, clean caffeine business here locally in Chicago. Let's own it. Let's make a solution to that. And within the world of food, there are so many different, extremely influential problems, some of which come up without expecting it, right, Gina? Like, you had no clue that you were going to have thrown in a hospital for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And how long was it, actually?
It was 1 week, but I was recovering.
Felt like 3 weeks, right?
I mean, for 2.5 months.
Yeah, that's what we want them to think. So, like, things like diabetes, obesity is a crisis here in the US. Those are two massive problems that we could solve. People who are, people's religions, like kosher diet, people don't know where to go that has kosher food around them. It's not easy. That's a problem, right? If you've been cooking for two for a long time and you're recently divorced or you've broken up, you've got to figure out how to cook for one again, and what habits you need to have to make sure you do that efficiently and don't waste a bunch of food. There's just so many instances in your life where the stuff you're consuming needs to change for various life reasons. And it's really hard to figure out or how to navigate that. So I think within the ecosystem, or with our platform, really what we're trying to solve is helping those deeper problems within that health and wellness community, just the decisions around those problems being a little bit easier, right?
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about where the product is today, or where it's kind of launching, and then where you're going with it. So talk me through the sort of the place you're starting and then where you want to go.
Yeah, I think that true north, right? We want to own every food decision somebody makes in a day. I think you can try and wrap your mind around what that looks like. There's so many different places for you to make those decisions. So what would it take for us to own every single one? So without getting too deep into it, right? I think that's the journey we're on. Today, though, it's really all about connecting those small businesses with consumers who may have some dietary demands or just a need to know what's better for you out there, right? What's the alternative to Coca-Cola that doesn't have 56 grams of sugar? Or what's the alternative to your Barilla pasta? Maybe not Barilla pasta, but what's the alternative to pasta that may need to be gluten-free or vegan if you're not using butter? Point is, we want to help solve the simple problems with products by curating them to specific needs. And we're going to see which customers really need that, at least today.
Yeah. And at the time of this podcast, at its air date, I should say, Sweat Life will actually have its own bite box out, through which one could purchase a curated box of stuff that we have selected with the help of an RD, that folks could take kind of out for an adventure, which is the experience we wanted to create, because it's something we are so passionate about in this time of COVID. And as we see people say, like, get me out of my house. So to me, I think what's really interesting is the idea of curation right now in your business, but it'll be really interesting to see curation in every moment of your life too. Like all of the ways that can take shape, whether that's through delivery, or whether that's through all sorts of other things. I know how your mind works a little bit, and I can see like all of the partnerships taking hold. Is there any preview of kind of like what a day in the life of Bitewell would look like in future state?
Absolutely not. It's too early for that. But I will tell you that we're most excited right now about the Bite Boxes launching in a couple of weeks. Again, it goes back to testing the concept. Does a keto person really have access to all the keto products that may be helpful when they're transitioning to a new diet, right? Or to your point, is there an experience that we can work with the dietitian to curate that's going to capture some attention for these smaller brands? And not only that, help solve a problem of snacking. You know, there's a lot of ways to I guess, I don't want to say skin the cat because that's a terrible reference. Is it cut the apple? I don't know, but there's a lot of ways to, what you think it is?
I said, let's keep the skin on the cats.
I think that's probably for the best. But there's a lot of ways that we can approach this problem. And I think these boxes are going to be a great way for us to not only get people to try a bunch of brands they've never tried before from small businesses, but also start to curate again to some of those needs that some of our health and wellness consumers have: keto, gluten-free, vegan, all that fun stuff.
All right, I'll let you off the hook. I want to ask all of the future state questions, but I'll stop so that you don't have to give too much away. Okay, Chris, tell me, what's your favorite product on Bitewell right now?
Oh, that's so not a fair question to ask. That's so mean. I don't know if I have a favorite, but I certainly have a couple categories that are interesting. I've seen a big trend in popcorn alternatives. Popped water lily seeds are becoming, this is news to me too. Go check it out at bitewell.com. But pop water lily seeds are definitely becoming more interesting. Shots are becoming more and more dynamic. Like, we're seeing shots for things outside of immunity now. Also another ingredient say that I find to be really interesting is postbiotics. You hear a lot about prebiotics and probiotics, but nobody's talked about postbiotics yet. So I think we're going to start seeing some things coming out around that ingredient, or so I guess a couple of things from the health and wellness world.
Fascinating. Popped water lily seeds. I cannot wait to try that. Okay, so give us your tip. We need to know your hot tip. You too are living in this COVID-19 world where we have to actively participate in our own well-being, mental health, and productivity on a daily basis because we don't have offices to go to. So what is a tip that you would give to the listener at home to stay healthy, productive, or just sane?
Yeah, no, it's all about, for me, trying new things, because right now it's really hard to go out and try something new. You know, I think if anyone's like me, I've been spending most of my time this summer walking around parks, occasionally kayaking, and basically sitting in my house staring at the walls, you know, and trying to stay sane and all at the same time. And I found the most enjoyment out of trying new things. For example, never kayaked until this year. Never tried a popped water lily seed until this summer. And really, you just want to go out there and make sure that your life's not as boring as the life that seems to have been instilled in many Americans' homes, you know, in recent months. We don't know how long this thing's going to last from a lifestyle perspective. So to the extent that you can find new habits and new ways to keep your life interesting, that is certainly what I want to focus on.
I like that. It's adventure in all forms, right? Like whatever adventure is accessible to you.
Yeah, but I also hate routines. So new things are my thing.
So what do you say to the question, what's your morning routine?
I brush my teeth. It's a step in the right direction, right?
I feel really good about the fact that you said you hate morning routines, or just routines in general, because same. They make me feel crazy. Like I feel trapped in a box in routine. Have you always felt that way?
Yes. And COVID has certainly put me in that trapped in a box mentality more than ever. But yeah, I find sanity in like just immersing myself in new things. Honestly, I guess that's my thing.
I love it. Okay. So Chris Fanucci, we spent a lot of time talking about Bitewell, about you, about your hot tip, which is try new things. Is there anything else you need the listener to know about you, about Bitewell, before we sign off?
No, I just think that, no. I think now is an interesting time in the world where we need to support each other more than ever. whether that's through, encouraging people to be on top of their fitness with you guys, hopefully encouraging people to be on top of their eating habits with us, or just figuring out what kind of camaraderie you need to make sure that your day doesn't feel like it's dragging you down, especially when there's a lot of unknowns in the world right now. And it's crazy. Like California is having the craziest wildfires they've seen in forever. During a year, I think, ago, we had Australia's crazy wildfires. It's just been constant chaos for many people. So hopefully you can find some peace within the chaos in trying to instill better routines for yourself if you are a routine person. So I guess I'll end it with that.
You said no further guidance, and then you gave further guidance.
Story of my life.
Yeah, I'll take it. Chris Fanucci, thank you so much for joining me on We Got Goals. This has been another episode. I'm Gina Anderson Cohen. Have a great day.